Welcome to Protect and Grow with Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns of TJ Stearns Incorporated. Trust, respect, and results. TJ Stearns Incorporated focuses on comprehensive financial planning and benefits.
And welcome into the program. This is Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement with Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns, CFP, president and founder of TJ Stearns. If you've got questions or concerns about your investments, your financial, your retirement planning, pick up the phone and give TJ Stearns and Tim Stearns, CFP, a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. We always love to hear from listeners and address your questions on air. So be in touch and let us know if there's any topic you would like to hear us discuss. And as always, Tim, a pleasure having you here on the program.
Peter, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to getting into some financial and retirement planning checklists today.
Yeah, we've got these year-end tips, big topics, Tim, that proactive planners need to make sure that they cover and address before the end of the year. And I think, Tim, in fact, many of these are on an ongoing basis, making sure that we have covered these. But let's dive right in. And before we do, actually, just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that if you would like this copy, one-page checklist of some to-do items and some subjects to make sure that you cover here in 2022. Just pick up the phone and give Tim Stearns a call, and he will happily provide this checklist to you. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, always nice to have a list. I like having lists when I go to the grocery store, so I don't come back home and my wife tells me, oh, I forgot to get this or that or the third.
Sure.
You know, checklists are nice. Make sure we cover the things that we need to cover.
Well, I think most of the people listening out here in WLS, their area, are people above my age, to around my age. And I know lists help me remember exactly what I need to do. So let's launch into this. The first thing we're going to talk about is income and expenses. And that's, basically, have you calculate how much your pre-retirement income will you need to replace in retirement? That involves actually doing an income allocation plan, which I think a lot of people, we call it the calculator problem, right? People don't want to actually sit down and do it, because they're scared what it might look like, or they're downright being lazy.
As fun as budgeting is, Tim.
Exactly. So, why not get after it so you can figure out, can you retire and what that looks like?
You've talked often on this program, though, Tim, how there are many among us who have been lucky or hardworking or blessed enough, what have you, to earn more than they spend, right? That have an income that is sufficient to cover all expenses and then some, and then do some savings. And that if we meet that description, then maybe we don't pay as much attention to our budget and pinching every penny and stretching every dollar. But for those same individuals, the shift when we move into retirement is actually that much more dramatic and impactful.
Right. You literally become a net seller of assets, right? So why not, crystallize and monetize what that amount is? So that's why I say, sit down, calculate to know how much you're going to have to replace once you turn on Social Security, or if you're lucky enough to have a pension. And speaking of pension, why not go out there and get an estimate, as to what that pension looks like? There's a whole million ways to skin a cat there. What I've seen is a lot of people coming in to see us and saying, hey, they're offering a lump sum and they said it's going to go down because interest rates are going up with the Fed and all that good stuff. Should I take it and run? I asked, does it have a cost of living adjustment? If you do take a pension, a lot of them, they say no. So those are conversations we're having in our office right now. And of course, the other thing is go and look at your Social Security estimates. If you're lucky enough to be able to, in that area, you're in your 60s, make sure that you're not missing years. We had one person who was missing 3 years of his best earning years. And he had, the onus is on us. A lot of companies have gone out of business, have combined, et cetera. You have to look into your taxes. And a lot of people don't keep more than 7 years. So that's another thing. So you're going to want to do those types of steps to make sure that you're not missing on your hard-earned money.
Again, we are talking with Tim Stearns, CFP, and on today's episode of the program covering the 2022 Financial and Retirement Planning Checklist. If you would like a copy of this one-page checklist, just give Tim Stearns, CFP, a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 5 sections on this checklist: income and expenses, taxes, investment analysis, healthcare and insurance, and then key events. And we'll try to do our best to cover all 5 sections and the different items that are on the checklist within each of those sections on the program today. But as a great resource, you can have this checklist and go over it on your own time, or with a family member, a spouse, a loved one, even a coworker who may be talking about their portfolio performance or lack thereof this year, or concerns about their investments and retirement accounts around the water cooler, maybe their intentions to retire. A great checklist for you to hand to them so that they maybe could even make some progress in the difficult economic year that we have had. That's what these kind of things are all about, is identifying where we've got those potentials for opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. And if you'd like this checklist for your own, or to share with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a loved one, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. And Tim, that is in fact number 2 on the income and expense portion of this, is check pensions and Social Security estimates to see how much of your needed income these will produce. And there are always options for how to take Social Security and pensions that could make a big swing in the income that we actually receive. So number 3, calculate how much net income you will need from your investments to create throughout retirement.
Well, it's actually a lot easier than it sounds, right? You have what your bills are, right, per month, minus what you're getting from your pensions or Social Security. And that would be what you net off of that is what you're going to need from your investments. So that's your gap. And that's what we do with income allocation plans. So that it's actually a lot easier than it sounds. And I think a lot of people, it's a daunting task. They don't want to sit down and do it. But at the end of the day, they should, and make sure that they're, know exactly what they're going to need to pull off their retirement. It might change their mind to that they need to work longer, or guess what? Maybe they could retire earlier. When health crisis happens, or a loved one passed away, that you're figuring, man, maybe I should shut it down early. So life is short type of a mantra. That's a great way to do it.
And for the sake of time, kind of combining the last 2 under the income and expenses planning category on the checklist, calculate whether your personal savings is capable of producing the cash flow rate you will need to withdraw. This is kind of the question, Tim, of do I have enough, or how much do I need, which is figured out. And we can arrive at a reasonable conclusion for that number with the final one: map your written plan for retirement income. This is, again, where the rubber meets the road. This is bringing the income and expenses portion of retirement all together.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't, let's say we were driving out to California from Chicagoland. You wouldn't just wing it, right? A lot of people are doing that in retirement. So why not have a plan to get to the destination that you want and get there in good shape? So that entails doing a written income plan, which brings me up to the next thing. If you're figuring how much money you need, where is that going to come from? Which is taxes, right? What do we do every year on April 15th? Shoulda, coulda, woulda of ourselves, right? For the previous year. We're always Monday morning quarterback. Well, guess what? It's only, November right now. So why not take a look at where you're at for the year to figure out what your current effective tax rate is, so that you're not owing Uncle Sam more than you want to.
Tim, when we do that April 13th, April 14th annual routine of trying to make sure that we're filing taxes, isn't that always a little bit of Monday morning quarterbacking by nature, in the fact that we are looking at something that's already happened and analyzing it? We are at that point in time historical rather than planning the game plan for next week's game, so to speak.
You are. And that's why I tell people, try to get ahead of it. Even for right now, starting to look for 2023, what does your income look like? Are you going to do more into a Roth? Maybe a Roth 401k, you're going to do Roth conversions. Remember, we only have uh, 2022 through 2025 to do our Roth conversions at the current tax rates, barring Congress changing that on us. So these are all things that right now is, where you want to take a look at that opportunity and not let it pass you by.
Next on the category subtopic on the checklist here of taxes, increase your net income need by the effective tax rate to calculate your gross income need in retirement. Tim, you've talked about this in our segment on the biggest expenses in retirement. Number one, our largest known expense being taxes. And you termed this the gross planning mistake, where assets are saved and accumulated in tax deferred accounts, but then we forget to factor in taxes as that major line item expense when we're planning retirement.
Right. And then what is your biggest expense in retirement? It's taxes, right? So that's number one. Then number two, we'd say medical costs. This is why we want to make sure that people are understanding, what is it, a gross amount that you need to live on or a net amount? I just had a couple in here the other day that the wife didn't really understand what we were talking about, and that's another reason. If you're doing all this planning, you get both spouses involved. Guess what? If God forbid something happens to one of them, they're both going to know what's going on, so that there's no surprises.
And kind of reversing that, deduct your tax rate from your personal lump sum savings to calculate the approximate amount you will need in retirement. Tim, we've talked about kind of cash flow projections, but just for illustration, if we say to cover our expenses, we need $40,000 from our 401ks and IRAs per year in retirement, and we've got $1 million, that's a 4% cash flow rate, projects out pretty good. But if we forgot that we are actually in a 20% tax bracket, we need to withdraw $50,000 a year, or right, we need $1.2 million in that account. It's a big difference there, and we need to factor that in. So discuss controlling taxes and planning strategies with your financial and tax professional to get a good and better understanding of where we've got opportunities to keep more of our money, right?
Exactly. And that's why you should get a financial advisor, a certified financial planner, or your tax person, which usually I would recommend a CPA. We have one on staff to do all these things and more.
Now, next on this list here, Tim, under taxes, again, plan for which accounts to access first, second, and last to be as tax efficient as possible. This reminds me of algebra class and the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally was right, kind of the acronym, right? You got to do the parentheses, then the exponents, multiplication, division. And if you did it in the wrong order, you got the wrong answer and you fail that quiz.
Right. And no one wants to fail in retirement. As we always talk about, you need to do this right. You only have one shot at an ideal retirement. So that is one of the things that we'll talk to people about. Where do you want to take money from first? We have our ideas, but this isn't a cookie cutter approach here. We want to make sure that you're taking the money out of the places that you don't mind. It doesn't get passed on as a legacy, or that you don't mind paying taxes in your lifetime so you can pass it on to your children. Those are things that go into play here. I say those bullet points are kind of more of a legacy conversation.
Well, once again, if you would like this 2022 financial and retirement planning checklist courtesy of TJ Stearns and Tim Stearns, CFP, pick up the phone and give a call now. Request it, and you can get that in your hands. You can get it emailed to you. You also have the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to go through these items with the help of a certified financial planning professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, if you'd like to apply these checklist items to your situation and know which are advantageous for you. Just give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. Again, to request the 2022 financial and retirement planning checklist, or your opportunity for a complimentary financial investment and retirement review and evaluation. Taxes, last item on the list. Calculate if you will exceed RMD requirements. I know that there's kind of a minimum due payment on those IRAs that comes sooner or later, and we need to know if we're going to meet or exceed that or not. Right, Tim?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you are taking out your RMDs, but a lot of people are not really realizing that the Secure Act came into effect that moved it from 70.5 to 72, or that earlier this year in February, they voted to have the Secure Act 2.0 get passed in the House. Now, it has not passed the Senate, but that would move it back to age 75. So these are all things that we're keeping up on, but I feel like a lot of consumers out there don't know about that. So RMDs are definitely a monster that you need to deal with, unfortunately, and we help all of our clients with that.
Well, just a flashback briefly here to 2019. The Secure Act 1.0, the first one, was actually passed in the week between Christmas and New Year's and then went into effect January 1st. So if it's already passed, the House wouldn't take an act of Congress, so to speak, in order to get that passed and in place. Next on the list here, Tim, investment analysis. And I think this is a big topic and area to focus some time and attention on, especially in a year like 2022. What do we need to do for our investment analysis?
Well, I would ask, how much are you down for the year and why are you down? Most of the people that are coming in here or called in from the show or we're talking to from our retirement classes are down because they use the 60-40 method, which is 60% in equities, 40% in bonds, and it fails 5 times over the last 22 years. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, we're looking at the fact that right now the 60-40 is down about 25% for the year. If you are in your early 60s or thinking that you're going to retire soon and you've lost a fourth of your portfolio, what next? You know, and you shoulda, coulda, woulda is a hard question to be asking yourself. So I would tell people that have mutual funds out there that are over 59.5 at a 401k, et cetera, get out of some of these mutual funds that you're in, that you're taking a bath on, and get into some more tactical and strategic investments that would go to cash if they see hell and high water like we've been seeing in the markets.
And by the way, Tim, a lot of people's kind of default, de facto method for investment these days are these target date funds or life cycle funds inside of 401ks, which don't they basically default to that traditional asset allocation of the 60-40 mix, with the part of the portfolio is in equities, part of it is in bonds and fixed income, and it sort of gets closer to retirement or that target date and moves more toward bonds or fixed income, but doesn't actually adjust for real world conditions like you're talking about?
Yes, it is not the silver bullet. We're seeing people come in here and I thought I had it in the 2020 fund, I'd be okay, and I'm down 20%. That literally just happened the other day. So you need to be careful what you're investing in. The only safe place, if you want to make sure you don't lose any money at all, is putting in like a money market or something like that. So you need to be careful about thinking that these things do more than they can. Look at what's baked into your account. You know, there's going to be stocks and bonds that have both lost. The range this year has been bonds that are down about 16%, all the way up to 30% for the NASDAQ stocks. So that's your range. If you're about to retire, you shouldn't be in those vehicles. You should be in something tactical, active, and strategic.
And you should also understand your risk level exposure. So assess investment risk exposure, evaluate investment performance and fees, strategize on your investment options, as well as where Social Security and pensions play in, as we talked about under income and expenses. Include inflation and loss of income streams in income projections, and address any savings or investment shortfalls. These are important steps as we look at our investment portfolio and prepare for using those investments in retirement to recreate our income and our paycheck.
Exactly. So you're looking at the fact that people are coming in here with a lot more stock portfolio than they meant to have because of the 13-year bull market. So what we do with people is we ask them to give us the risk number through a Riskalyze questionnaire that we can email to people right today. and then we can actually analyze their portfolio to see what risk is actually out there. I think most people are unfortunately not pleasantly surprised. They're very upset at looking at the fact that they're taking out way too much risk, and then they've gotten crushed in the markets. Is it time to get out of the markets completely? No, probably not, because you've ridden it down. How are you going to get back up? But I would say that there's times that you need to be in better vehicles, and we're happy to analyze that and help people with that.
Once again, if you would like this checklist, or if you would like that conversation with an experienced, qualified professional, Tim Stearns, CFP, makes both of those opportunities available for you. All you need to do is pick up the phone and give a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, the fourth section in this checklist, healthcare and insurance, obviously a big one to tackle before, during, and throughout retirement.
Well, healthcare, as we talked about, is your second biggest expense in retirement. The average 60-year-old couple is going to spend about $300,000 on just that alone. So that's one thing. The other thing is 7 out of 10 Americans are going to need long-term care if they're over the age of 60, and 9 out of 10 of us don't have that. We've talked about this a lot, and I still are getting phone calls from people to this show asking, what is this hybrid life insurance product that can have living benefits while I'm still here that I could use for my long-term care? Well, give us a call and we can dive into it with them. I will tell them that it's my wife and I did it. I think it's a totally a necessary product in your portfolio, that you need to have that, because you don't want to be a burden on your family, or leave it up to the government to take care of you in retirement because you can't do 2 of your activities of daily living. Why not do it on your own terms?
Yeah. And you've talked about, Tim, how everyone has a plan for those healthcare expenses. And if we do nothing, that default plan is essentially to become dependent on family, on loved ones, on spouses, or on the government, which is really no one's ideal plan, which is why we need to be a little bit more proactive about tackling healthcare and health insurance related issues into and throughout retirement, estimating the cost of healthcare premiums over retirement, having a plan for long-term medical and care costs. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to do your loved ones, yourself, your family, the biggest favor, make sure you address this one. Our largest potential expense on top of the largest known expense of taxes, the largest potential expense in retirement is these healthcare costs, and can derail even a well thought through and laid out plan if we have not specifically addressed this topic. Give Tim Stearns a call again to talk over all of your planning needs and strategies for that protect and grow written retirement income plan for an optimized retirement plan. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. Finally on the checklist, Tim, a list of some key events. Can you cover a few of these to wrap up the program?
Definitely. If you're over age 50 and you don't think you've saved enough, look at doing some catch-up contributions. If you're over 59 and a half and you're still working, you can do an in-service distribution into an IRA that you can be in charge of, or have an advisor help you and get out of these mutual funds that have lost so much this year. If you're 62 through 70, you're eligible for Social Security. When to take it, when not to. Do a retirement Social Security optimization report, and we're happy to help people with that. If you're going to be 65 this year, you might want to look at enrolling in Medicare, 3 months out of your birthday. We help people with that all the time. And then lastly, if you're over age 72, start those RMDs from qualified retirement accounts. Make sure that you're in good standing with the IRS, who wants their pound of flesh from all this money that you've tax deferred all your life.
Yep. And for that first one that you mentioned, Tim, those catch-up contributions, and even if we're under 50, just making regular contributions, a silver lining, so to speak, to some of the inflation and volatility that we have seen throughout this year is that next year, those contribution limits are increasing substantially. We should be able to save and invest a whole lot more into some of our retirement opportunities.
Right. And there's a lot of things being changed there. A lot of people aren't up on it. Give us a call and we'll help you get the nitty gritty so that you know exactly what the details are so that you can take advantage of these things that the government's actually helping us to combat some of this inflation.
Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, your resource here on Protect and Grow Chicagoland Retirement, Tim Stearns, CFP, does make his time available to apply this information to your specific situation. That retirement review and planning strategy session is an extension of this program, available to you, no cost, no obligation. If you would like to review and analyze your investment and retirement portfolio, the fees that you're paying, the risks that you're taking, the taxes that you may be liable for, pick up the phone and give a call. 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. 800-640-2256. On this edition of the program, we have been reviewing this 2022 financial and retirement planning checklist. Great to get a jump on now. You can probably tackle and handle and address many of these items before the end of the year and before we get too deep into the holiday season. The time is now to get a jump start on that, though. So if you'd like this list, again, just call that number, 800-640-2256, 800-640-2256. And then finally, Tim, you make an offer often on this program for another retirement planning resource, really the essential retirement planning strategy guidebook, Income Allocation. It is a book that is being used to discuss and discover some of the biggest risks to retirement that we face in today's economy, and then specifically how to plan strategically to address, minimize, and eliminate many of those risks. It's being used across the country by advisors looking to better understand themselves and help their clients better understand how to structure a more confident and secure retirement. You make an offer for that great book, Income Allocation, on this program.
Right. Anybody out there with over $500,000 worth of assets will be happy to get the first 10 callers. We'll be happy to get the book Income Allocation into their hands. All they need to do is give us a call and we're happy to get it to them.
Again, that number, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. So the resource of the checklist, ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity to apply this information to your individual situation through that retirement and planning, review, and strategy session, as well as that book, Income Allocation. If you would like to receive those, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-640-2256. That's 800-640-2256. Tim, we always appreciate the guidance, the perspective to help us make progress in our planning.
Here, thanks for having me.
Tune into Chicagoland certified financial planner Tim Stearns' full radio program and visit tjstearns.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Chicagoland Retirement. Be sure to subscribe.
Securities offered through TJ Stearns, a registered representative of Crown Capital Securities LP, member FINRA SIPC. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature, not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs.